All right, this is about your chapters 5.2 and 5.3 note taker. For triangle congruence, it's going to be the foldable note taker. So you start with your binder paper, put the holes on the left. You're going to fold it over basically halfway, but when you fold it over, you're going to not cover up the holes. So it's going to be a little bit different in that aspect. Then you are going to fold it in half horizontally, right there where you see that line, and then fold it in half horizontally again. And when you open it up, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, but 3 folds. Now, when you would cut with your scissors on that flap, you would cut this all the way up to that crease mark right there. Make sure you don't cut through all of it or it'll wreck it. When you open it up, you're going to have a flap here. This is flap 1, flap 2, flap 3, and flap 4. Now let's talk about what you're going to write on each of the flaps. Okay, so turn it so you're looking at it in this manner with the 3 holes at the bottom. On the first flap, would you please write side, side, side congruence? And that's going to be abbreviated SSS. On the second flap, would you please write side angle side congruence? And that's abbreviated SAS. On the third flap, would you please write angle side angle congruence, and that's going to be abbreviated ASA. And on the fourth flap, would you please write angle angle side congruence, and that's going to be abbreviated AAS. And the title of this is triangle congruence. So on the second flap at the very top, put triangle, and on the third flap at the very top, put congruence. Side, side, side congruence is going to be chapter 5.2. Side angle side congruence is also going to be 5.2. Angle angle side is 5.3. And angle side angle is 5.3, and angle angle side is also 5.3. There's another method to determine triangle congruence. It's hypotenuse leg, and that's 5.4, but I think we're going to just do those notes separately. Okay, with that said, we're going to show you what will go underneath each of the flaps. Okay, if you lift up the flap, you'll see your fold right along here. If you lift up the flap, on the first one, on the upper part of that flap, you're going to write postulate 12, side, 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 congruence postulate. And what that says is if 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to 3 sides of a second triangle, comma, then the 2 triangles are congruent. So this is another form of deductive reasoning. So if you look at the picture down below, so right below the fold line, you'll put these 2 triangles, M, N, and P, and Q, R, and S. You're going to show that side MN is congruent to side QR, and that side NP is congruent to side RS. These are corresponding sides. And that side PM is congruent to side SQ. Then you can say that triangle MNP is congruent to triangle QRS. Okay, the second set of flaps. You can stop and pause this at any time you want. Please notice that I've used the symbols for triangle and congruence, and I've used numbers instead of writing the word out. It'll save you some time. In the second flap, you should write postulate 13, side angle side congruence postulate. And it says if 2 sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent to 2 sides and the included angle Let's go back and do postulate 13 again. Side angle side congruence postulate. If 2 sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent to 2 sides and the included angle of a second triangle, then the 2 triangles are congruent. So you have triangle PQR and triangle WXY. So if you look at PQ, those are the sides, it corresponds to segment WX, they are congruent. The included angle is the angle that would be between the two sides. So that's what it means by included angle. So the angle between segment PQ and segment QR is angle Q. The included angle between segment WX and segment XY is angle X. So angle X and angle Q are congruent. Both included angles are congruent. So now we go to the last side. Side QR is congruent to side XY. Then, so again, deductive reasoning, then triangle PQR is congruent to triangle WXY. Okay, we're going to the third flap, postulate 14. Angle side angle congruence postulate. If two angles and the included side of one triangle are congruent to two angles and the included side of a second triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. Again, included side would be the side between the two congruent angles. So if we look at triangle ABC and triangle DEF, you can see that the two angles are A and C, D and F. Segment AC and segment DF are the included sides because they're between the two angles. So the first angle A is congruent to this angle on the second triangle D. This side AC, the segment AC, is congruent to this corresponding segment DF. And the last angle C is congruent to the corresponding angle F on the second triangle. So you have an angle side angle congruence postulate at work. Then, if that's true, you can say that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. The final one on the notes, it's not the final way to determine congruence, but the final one on this set of notes, this is 4 of the 5, is theorem 5.1, and it is the angle side congruence theorem. It says if two angles and a non-included side of one triangle are congruent to two angles and the corresponding non-included side of a second triangle, then the two triangles are congruent. So again, make sure that you've written all of the words on the tops of your flaps, drawn all of the pictures underneath those flaps, including the information that I've written down here. So let's go through this last one. Your picture for this theorem 5.1 is an ABC triangle and a DEF triangle. If angle A, so A and D, are corresponding angles and they're congruent, and angle C and F, okay, so there's a second angle C and F are congruent, and then another non-included angle. So this one won't be in between. It's not going to be A and C, and it's not going to be D and F. It would either have to be E and F or D and E, B and C, or A and B. In this case, they've shown you that it is segment BC, segment EF that are congruent, so there's your side. And if those three things are congruent, then you can say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. There is a final way to determine congruence, and that is the hypotenuse leg. There wasn't room on these notes, and that's chapter 5.3, and we'll address that at another time. Make sure you've copied these notes down, and they're going to be checked off for a grade, so we want to make sure that you have them. That's the goal, is that you have them. So go back, make sure you've written everything down, so when you come to class, I can check them off.